Okay, Secret of the Mimic has been out for a couple days, and I gotta say, it's the best game out of the whole entire FNAF series. It has such good detail in all of it. But not to say it has its flaws. But one thing I keep on hearing from the fandom is people are left confused when they walk away from the game. It's just they don't know the story or what really happened in total at all. But this is FNAF, and FNAF is one of the most confusing franchises or games in the history of this world. But that's not what we're talking about today. Today we're summarizing the secret of the Mimic. And don't worry, that's the only time I'll be using that pun. But as way, let's continue. Our game starts with a guy named Arnold, a wet, sleep-deprived man. He works with Fazbear Entertainment, and he's off the set to go to Edwin Murray's costume manor. But on the second round, Edwin Murray, a contractor for Fazbear Entertainment, ever since he went MIA, Fazbear Entertainment is sent Arnold to go claim their belongings or any missing property they have. We're warned that in motion sensors outside the building that there's something moving around. But as we know now, it was the Mimic. And we connect to dispatch using an intercom system in the building. But the dispatch levels with us, and he tells us the thing moving around in the building is probably an endoskeleton, one of the last things Edwin Murray was working on before he went MIA. But now we know this is the Mimic. But this endoskeleton can adapt to any costume, it can adopt any personality or persona that costume has, or anything. And in quote, it got, except for some glitches, and in quote, its homicidal tendencies. But if we get the schematics for this Mimic, Fazbear Entertainment can fix it and use it. So Arnold just does that. That's the main goal of the game, to get the schematics of the Mimic. But in the gameplay, we have to defend ourselves from all the costumes that the Mimic takes place. And during every hour, we face little bosses that the Mimic possesses. First, there's Jackie. Second, we have Big Top, which I really originally thought was just a music band. Nope, it's just Big Top. That's pretty interesting. And then we have Dolly at the end. Oh, I made a mistake there. We actually have Chica, specifically Chica from Chica's Party World. But we're gonna touch on that a bit later. But after that, we finally have the last boss, which is the White Tiger. And specifically, I would like to call it the White Tiger. And it was the tiger from David, the David's White Tiger, to be exact. But that's enough about that. But now we're going to talk about the story below the main level. But you can't really see. You have to go underground and look through all the lore. Edwin Murray's costume factory was originally Edwin's father, Edwin Sr. But then when his father died, Edwin Murray inherited it all. But Edwin's father was a creative designer at the manor, and Edwin Murray found great success in one of his first products, the Cleanovac. But Edwin Murray, the Cleanovac was so popular, Edwin Murray kept on trying to chase that same feeling and try to create something more popular than the Cleanovac. But Edwin failed every single time. But after his father died, Edwin Murray kept on trying to pump out new inventions to try to keep the company alive. But they weren't as good, and there were flaws found, but way too late. But before that, and after he found the flaws, more lawsuits and more returns were made after those inventions with all the flaws and intricacies. But as the company was in a downward spiral, longtime partner of Edwin Murray's costume manor, Fazbear Entertainment, came along. and wanted a contract so big and so long Edwin Murray could not say no for that how much money that was gonna make. Since Edwin Murray had to take this deal, if Edwin Murray could finish this deal, it would save his whole entire company. But since the commission was never quietly and fully stated for us, but what we do see in the game is that it was almost like a prototype Five Nights at Freddy's one location, and it was befitted with the Mothercracker. It was fitted with 4 animatronics: a fox, a bear, a rabbit, and a chicken. And with 2 other animatronics, or Springlock animatronics, a bear and another rabbit, specifically Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. But it is a good point to point out these all are prototypes, at a point that the main band looks like it's made out of metal scraps. And even the Springlock suits literally say prototype on the back of it. So I think it's safe to say that Fazbear Entertainment did not use these at all, as these are just all prototypes and they don't look like they were ever used. But next thing to say is, here's a little story of why this even is there. Is that Fazbear Entertainment the big contract they said is they wanted to build the prototype. So Fazbear Entertainment kept on greenlighting the artwork, kept greenlighting everything. But closer they got to the end, they started making change requests, starting with like the animatronics to the whole location. But as of this, it caused them, with more making them use Edwin Murray, it cost them more time and money for Edwin Murray. But on the other side of this contract was William Afton and Henry Emily. Out of jealousy or just spite, they both wanted Murray Co. to go out, and they wanted to destroy it. They were all from the start. They were planning to destroy Murray Co. with that contract. Fazbear Entertainment wanted to absorb Murray Co. to the assets and all the employees they could get to. So they made this contract so big so Edwin couldn't refuse. Then they pulled the rug out from Edwin, destroying Edwin's company. And Edwin had to say no, and since Edwin was so desperate to get this contract done, and because Edwin wasn't expecting it, Edwin was also best friends with Henry. At one point, they're actually on nickname basis. And even just to reinforce this point once again, there's a message in the game that says, "Just like we always do, Henry." But as the Edwin Murray weaned on this contract, William Afton started contacting employees at Edwin's and asked them if they could get better pay and better stuff at Fazbear Entertainment, and they would get bonuses if they brought over more Murray employees. And they made the contract more and more difficult with all the changes. So after that, as this whole entire company started to fail, employees were leaving left and right, money was loose, then Fazbear Entertainment made one last move. They asked him in a message. I can't really get an image right now, but they basically say, actually, I think I could pull it up. Hold on. Why won't it work? You guys might just have to hold on a second. They says confidential software development, and the entire MCM catalog. We would love to keep you as a lead engineer. This meaning, Edwin Murray, although we now technically own the land, we would never touch the house your parents built. We feel this is awfully more than fair, considering how far behind you are in the contract that they were doing. It's just so much for you to handle alone. We are waiting for your response. William Afton. So at the lowest point, Fazbear Entertainment buys out Edwin Murray Costume Manor and all its land. And they even offer Edwin Murray a job as lead engineer. But anyway, the next topic is what is under the Edwin Murray Costume Manor. What is under the whole thing? If you don't give the dispatch the data diver, you do the parachute.exe, it opens up an event, and once you do that, dispatch cuts the act, and the dispatch starts mocking you, and they kept on mocking you and say, gesture will be good, or a dog of some kind. But then after you get out of the vent, you go back to the welcome show lobby and get to play the goodbye show. And following the goodbye show, you get to go deeper into the facility. So deep, in fact, you get to go to that secret Freddy Fazbear prototype area. And once you turn on the power, the mimic follows suit, putting on the scraps of some Freddy Fazbear parts. And the whole mission is in there to put on spring-lock suits and get into the main office. Almost like a reverse FNAF game or FNAF 1-ish. But during the whole thing, Dispatch starts to mock you, or whatever Dispatch is in the main office. And Dispatches closes doors and uses the cameras on us. Basically like a reverse FNAF game. But once you use the whole building's power, Dispatch lets you in, and you get to see this. It very much looks like mixes, but instead it says F10-N4, or short Fiona. But to understand this, we're gonna have to dive into the personal lives of Edwin Murray and Fiona. And David, of course. But just for a disclaimer for the rest of this video, we've only skimmed the surface of the lore. It's rather all the stuff I'm saying in this video has rather been said in the text, or it's such light speculation, or it's just so. This is basically almost all true. There is a bit of speculation, but that's just a disclaimer for the rest of this video. Take what I'm about to say with just a grain of salt about Edwin Murray's family life. So Edwin Murray met Fiona at MCM and had a child named David. And the next part we're going to talk about just mainly some of their family life. But as we continue, and Moon.exe, David depicts Fiona as burnt. Because Fiona died because on opening day of Fall Fest, Fiona helped the Fall Fest crew set up. And then there was a fire, which we often see at Fall Fest. But in with Fall Fest, and we also have evidence in Moon.exe, there's a burnt snow globe by the area which says Fiona was depicted as burnt. But in Edwin's wake, Edwin didn't know how to keep it all together and taking care of David, keep everything going, and taking care of the whole entire company. But one day, Edwin swears he hears Fiona in the basement of the facility, and here's a recording of it.
Test. Levels are good. This is where I heard it. It's her or someone that sounds like her. Set frequency to 4625. Hello? Hello?
Oh my god.
Is anyone there? Over. Say something. It's me, Edwin. Over.
So that was Fiona's spirit influencing the radio. So in the basement, Edwin Murray starts working on the mimic. And he uses the technology he already has. Like, the example of technology is like the Cleanovac. It could change sizes. The Stay Up Latte, it could see you and recreate what you do. All that. But anyway, Edwin's goal while creating the mimic was not necessarily to make Fiona or make Fiona again. He was just trying to find a way for somebody to take care of David, and the only way to know how, Fiona. But in this mimic, the way to keep David entertained, it could fit into any costume and recreate personality. But most importantly, it could copy anyone's personality. So Edwin creates M1, and Edwin tasks it to start recreating Fiona. But M1 tells Edwin to keep Fiona or M1 a secret because the others might not like it. But anyway, but tragedy strikes again. On David's birthday, he dies by getting hit by a van. But M1 reassures Edwin in all his grief that he could just do it again. He could just make another. So what Edwin does, he puts M1 into a big supercomputer that I'll put on screen right now. But as he's doing that, for some reason, when he tried to put David into the mimic, trying to make M2, he for some reason keeps on failing and keeps on failing again and again because he don't know why M1 worked. Probably because M1 is somewhat possessed by Fiona. But anyway, after Edwin keeps on failing and trying and becoming so desperate, M1/Fiona tells her she'll give up her body and let M2, which is David, go in that body, which he does. So, and then Edwin builds a supercomputer to put Fiona in, also known as MXCS. As Fiona waits for Edwin to put David into M1's body, M1/David, it starts working too well. And since it works too well, Edwin finally snaps and realizes this has gone on way too far. You guys, this isn't his family. This isn't who he is. But once M1 starts recreating David and how he acts and everything, he gets so mad and he lashes out on the mimic and starts trying to kill him, or kill the mimic. My bad. But he did not kill the mimic, he just damaged the mimic, taking off its legs. But somewhat time later, there's an experiment in Edwin's office, or in his house, goes wrong, trapping Edwin under the rubble. But M2 gets up and builds itself new legs. And here's a chilling recording from it.
Test, journal entry. Too bad the new power test was a failure.
M2!
Due to a minor detonation.
M2's the one speaking?
There is damage to my office interior, as well as a small fire. Note to self, portable cleaner that gets rid of smoke damage. Ooh, better yet, a Cleanovac attachment.
Help! M2! Respond! Emergency! Call for help!
Daddy's busy, buddy. Why don't you go outside and play?
Please! I can't move. I can't feel my legs.
You know, speaking of legs, what do you think? I just finished mine. There are still a few kinks to work out.
I'm sorry, M2. I lost my temper. I was always gonna fix you. Please, call for help. M2, respond.
Oh, can't right now, buddy. We can do something fun tomorrow. I promise. Ask your mom if she's not busy.
This is insane.
Help!
So there we go. That's it. So M1 is Fiona, or Fiona trapped inside the MXCS systems. And Edwin, David, and all the agony with it in M2, the actual mimic. But M1 also has some ulterior motives that she has. But what other things that do we have currently? So with that all, that's how the family is. But now we're gonna focus on the other two endings that there are. When you're in the office in the prototype FNAF pizzeria, Fiona talks to you and says, since you could still be useful, and since you have the schematics, she's convinced that you could give the schematics to Edwin so it could fix the mimic and be back to being David, and fix the violent glitch that the mimic has. But anyway, you go through Edwin's tunnels to get back to the manor, and there we have the two of the endings. One of the endings, you go into Edwin's room and go into his surveillance room, and that where the mimic tries to attack you. But then you run through the building as it's burning down, and you're getting chased by the mimic and all the Mimic 2 failed creations. Eventually getting out of the building and back in your van, a car chase occurs. Eventually shaking off the failed M2 creations, but the mimic gets to you first, causing your car to crash. But it's definitely not sure Arnold dies or doesn't die, but we don't really know. But the mimic takes Arnold's data diver with the mimic plans and all the executive ranges, so the mimic can build more mimics of itself, or we don't really know what the mimic wants, but it wants something. But if you've gotten every collectible that in the whole entire game, you get to do moon.exe. The moon.exe is a whole thing I have to cover in another video, but the whole thing is, once you get through the whole entire game, you get to meet Fiona, or the Sun. And the Sun gives you the glitch permission. The glitch permission allows you to access all the doors in the manor, and all these doors are tapes. Once you get all the tapes, you grab the tapes and you go into a room where you could put them all in there. And once you put on all the tapes, you get a thing called Nighttime Story, where a vent pops open and you go through it. And you get to go into David's room. And once you get into the room, the mimic pops out of the closet, getting confused of what you're supposed to be there for. And you do to defend yourself is the storyteller recordings of it. As you press the recordings, the mimic constantly switches from wanting to kill you to wanting to be David again. And once you do it long enough, the mimic is stunned. Then you inject your data diver into the mimic, uploading the schematics. Once you've uploaded schematics, it fixes the mimic, and it will run completely back to David. And as you do that, it goes to bed, and the mimic tells his parents he loves them. And there we go, and that's the third ending of Secret of the Mimic. But overall, this game is really good, but one question I have is, overall, all these things, what is the secret of the Mimic? Like, there is like 8 secrets of the Mimic that we actually found. But the one secret I think it is that M1 is like the digital version of the Mimic. It is a fully digital section. Or it is Fiona. And M2 is is a physical version of the Mimic slash David, Edwin, and Agni, all of that. But all together. And one last thing, the ending we just saw is not canon, because it wouldn't be there for Security Breach. So even though it's probably the happiest ending, it's not canon. But anyway, that's mainly a lot what we see of this game. But with that secret of the Mimic, that really shows up. How does Fiona translate into Glitch Trap? How does M2 go from the game into the one we see in Ruin? How does this go back? FNAF is so back. Mysteries are back. Now we're gonna have so much speculating. It's gonna be so back to the good old days. But anyway, that's all we're gonna really cover today. And remember, there's gonna be so many more videos about this game. But that's it. So remember, divers, be always ready to submerge again.